Good day to all. Welcome to Straight Talk with Greg Middleton. My name is Alexandra. With this introduction, here is Greg.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Greg Middleton, and I have a special guest today, Lamar. I have quite a bit of resume to read on him, and I don't like to read too much when the guy's sitting right here. I'm gonna let you tell a lot more about him, but he might be modest, so I'll read some of this stuff. There's a long list. Lamar is a committed leader who has dedicated his life to the advancement of others. His focus upon public community service and community engagement shows his passion to see Pasadena thrive. He's been involved in Pasadena since his youth, has been a part of Pasadena's own programs such as Pasadena Youth Ambassadors, Pasadena Youth Council, Pasadena Alpha Phi Alpha Mentoring Programs, Pasadena Visions 2020 Initiative, and many more. Brandon's community service includes being a member of the steering committee of Vision 2020 and a community advisor for Day One Pasadena. He assisted in the startup of La Penterosa Teen Center, as well as Pasadena Parks After Dark program. Working with our youth seems to be high on Brandon's priority. Now, more recently, Brandon served as chair of the Human Relations Commission, served on the executive board of Pasadena NAACP, Pasadena Organizing for Progress, Leadership Pasadena, and Black Los Angeles Young Democrats. He is ready now to throw his hat in and talents for City Council member representing District 3, running, by the way, against John Kennedy. Now, Brendan, I don't need these glasses, and I don't need paper. Welcome to Straight Talk.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I have to say to the audience, I met Brendan just about a week ago, and Brendan just had a birthday yesterday, and I'm not going to tell his age unless he want to tell you. But I was very impressed that somebody so young could have that much wisdom in him.
I appreciate it.
I remember when I grew up through the 50s and 60s and 70s, so we had to fight for civil rights.
Yeah.
Because we had segregated everything.
Absolutely.
So we said, no, y'all not going to keep us down. So we had to fight.
Yeah.
Today, I don't see any kind of motion in our youth, and that's why it was so impressive. I said, wait a minute, young people. There are some young people who are still willing to carry the torch.
Absolutely.
Now, I did mention that Brendan is running for city council. Did I read that introduction quite well?
Yes.
Is there anything that you want to correct on that?
No, it sounds good.
Here's what I told Brendan. I said, if I had to vote for somebody, I don't really want to hear a stump speech.
Absolutely.
I want to get to know the person. So today, Brendan's going to do all this stuff by way of politics, but today I want you to get to know who this man is, So Brendan, and we talked off camera, I like to use this acronym FORWARD, which is faith or family, F-O, occupation, R is recreation, and D is for dream. Mm-hmm. So tell us about your faith and family.
So yeah, my faith comes, have a Christian background. Okay. My grandparents, pastors in Pasadena since 1977. My grandmother, who is my heart and the reason why I do everything that I've done in Pasadena and continue to do, well known as Mother Evans or Dorothy Evans. And she passed last year. And so, it's just continuing to take on that legacy and move it on and pass it forward, So I'm very grounded in faith. I think my faith is what keeps me moving forward. Ooh. My faith in God is what keeps me going. But then also it's my faith in God of why I'm doing what I'm doing, to help the needy, to help the poor, to uplift the people who have been dealing with unjust circumstances. Mm-hmm. And so that's about who Jesus was. And so taking on that mission and keeping it going. So that's my faith. My family is come from, I was actually born.
Can I back up just a minute? Because you
absolutely.
said something, and a lot of people may be afraid to identify that they believe in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Because it might alienate some voters.
Right.
So you're not in this just to get voters.
Absolutely
You're here
not.
to do the mission.
Absolutely.
And that's his mission.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Some people are afraid to say that.
Yeah.
I'm, by the way, a Christian.
Growing up, my grandmother used to always tell me there's this and I used to think it was a story, but it's actually in the Bible. She says, what does God require of us?
Right.
And she always used to tell us in the Bible that God required us to do justly, love mercy, and be humble. And so that's what I live my daily life as, to do just by people, to live humble, and to love mercy, to go about life with mercy. Everybody needs a second chance. Some of us need hundreds of chances just to get it right? And so that's my faith background.
Right.
Very grounded in family as well. Family is what has driven my life. As I was sharing with you, as I walked in, I was born during the Rodney King riots in 1992, and my birth mother actually came and got me when I was 3 days old. Actually, my godmother, my birth mother, gave me up to my godmother when I was 3 days old, and she drove down during the Rodney King riots to come get me from King Drew Hospital. And I've been living with my godparents ever since. I call them my parents because that's all I know since 3 days old. But they have been driven and taking my life to the next level, giving me love. Like, I know what it is to be a child. Right. I know what it is to grow up as a child. I know what it is to have fun. I know what it is to not have to deal with circumstances. I didn't even know what it is to be poor and not even know you were poor because of the family dynamics, right? Because they made sure you had every single thing that you need. So I'm very driven in family and family oriented.
Let me interrupt that because we shared that in common. My grandmother raised me. In fact, my grandma used to read the Bible to me when I didn't understand any of what it was saying.
Right.
But she insisted on putting that seed in me.
Right.
And then when I got old enough to leave, I said, I don't want none of that stuff no more. So I went out into the world and sinned as much as I could. And finally God said, Greg, that ain't my boy.
Yeah.
So I came back to my faith. And all of us stumbled. You know what I mean? And it's, I know specifically more in the black community, I think, and I'm not certain, but grandmas are a big part of our culture.
Absolutely.
And to hear that grandma put that stamp on you.
Yeah.
We didn't argue against grandma. We might argue with somebody with grandma.
Yeah.
You're not going to argue.
It's legacy.
Yeah.
And you can't fight legacy. Legacy is something that it's hard to fight against. And for you to know, I always tell people, it's so much easier to follow the road of where you're going if you actually know where you came from. And I think a lot of people forget where they came from. A lot of people forget how it was when they didn't have anything or how it was in the struggle. I think a lot of people forget who helped them along the way. And I feel that if you forget that part, then you forget where you're going. Right. So it's like the blind leading the blind. And so we must remember our legacy and where we come from.
And like I said, that you said something else about you were poor and didn't know you were poor. Right. Because they gave you enough love that you could concentrate on what you didn't have.
Exactly.
Because you were getting everything you needed.
Exactly.
Which is love.
Yeah.
And that's what kids grow up with, love. And unfortunately, with dysfunctional families, I don't think people realize how much that damages a child.
Absolutely.
If they don't receive enough love while they're growing up. That in fact that made you into the person you are. Yeah,
I mean that love is the ultimate sacrifice that we all have to give, right? And love actually opens doors for us in places where other people cannot go.
Ooh, I like that.
And I think that's the main part. I've been able to go places and work with gang members and work with drug dealers and work with all kind of people that you can name because of the love that I have for them, the compassion that I have for them. And so I think that's the thing that I have in my mind, and I might say something that's controversial, but I always tell people, because we've been dealing a lot with shootings in the neighborhood and shootings in the community, and I always tell people that there's two tragedies in our community when it comes to a shooting. There's a person who has gotten shot, and then the controversy part is the person that's holding the gun. Whoa. And for me, once we have both those, we have just lost two people. We lost two people to either the grave or the hospital, or we have lost another person to our system in jail. And I'm so focused on prevention because I don't want to lose either one of them. I don't want to lose the person in the ground, and I don't want to lose the person to jail.
Right. Now, that takes me to this next part, occupation. Occupationally, in fact, I know you do a lot of community service. So how did you get involved in all this, and when did it start?
Literally, my grandmother. My grandmother, her being a pastor, her very involved in Pasadena. Most of the shootings or gang funerals that you probably heard of in Pasadena, she's done them because she was one of the ones who was not afraid. She wasn't afraid to tell people to put down their guns and step away from it. And so that's how I got introduced to community service and civic engagement.
What was your grandma's name, just for those who might?
Dorothy Evans. So
Dorothy
her name was Dorothy Evans, but she went by Mother Evans or Pastor Evans.
Good. So the community knows her.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And she'd be so proud of you today.
Thank you so much.
Right. So, and what have you been, how did you get involved in so many community activities, like you said, the Pasadena youth and stuff like that? Now, what I was thinking, and I was telling my friend Martin Gordon, who suggested I call you, is that I don't see the torch being passed on to the next generation.
Right.
And perhaps that's the reason he suggested I call you, because you get the mission.
Right.
You understand that the fight is not over with.
Right.
And when I say fight, people think we're talking about violence.
Right.
We're not talking about fight. We're
Yeah.
just talking about standing up
Yeah.
for rights.
Yeah.
You know. So, and I can tell by what you're saying to me, this is just your passion.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, at the end of the day, I believe that if we don't have any person, or if we don't train or develop the right people to pass the torch to,
Right.
then the dream falls.
Ooh.
The legacy falls.
Right.
What we've been fighting for falls.
Wow.
And so we have to train and develop people and individuals and young people to take the torch.
Right.
But there's a big old but.
Uh-huh.
But we also have to be okay with passing the torch.
Right.
And giving it
That's a
away.
big one.
And I think that's what we fight with in our own communities.
Right.
Is passing that torch to the next generation and being comfortable with them taking
Right.
what you trained in them, what you put in them, what you placed in them, and taking it and running on.
You know, that reminds me too, like say, me being a father and a grandfather, great grandfather by now. But once you train your children,
Yeah.
there comes a point that you have to trust them.
Yeah.
You mean, because they're not going to be under you always. So you have to trust that they have learned from you, and now they can make their own decisions.
Absolutely.
But it means that you had to train them well.
Yeah.
Because if you're afraid, that means you didn't train them.
You know, it's so funny, you know, going back to faith, you know, the Bible tells us train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they
Correct.
get old, they will not
Correct.
depart from it. And that goes both ways, right?
It does.
Train up a child in the way they should go, whether you train them in a positive way or in the negative way.
Correct.
They're always going to go back to that training. And when they get old, they're not going to depart from that training. Whatever you gave them, they won't depart from it, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah, and it could
so,
be negative.
Yeah, and it could be.
Yeah.
And so we have to train up our young people and be okay with understanding that what we trained them to take on, that they are equipped to take on it.
And you just brought another thought to mind, like a vacuum.
Yeah.
So nothing good happens in a vacuum.
Absolutely.
You mean only wild weeds grow in an empty field. So if you're not putting something positive in there, the wild takes over. So nothing good comes out of a vacuum.
Yeah.
You mean? So that's good. Now I want to get through this forward because I do want to spend some time with some of the issues that we're having in Pasadena. And by the way, I did talk to you off camera that I feel that the world is broken, and I don't see enough people trying to fix it back together. So I do want to spend ample amount of time us talking about what your ideas are for your district and what you think you can supply to the citizens of your area.
Absolutely.
So let's go to your, what do you do for recreation?
So recreation, I just love to relax. I think I spend enough time with
Right.
community and work
Right.
and giving. So my recreation, I just love to chill, relax.
Right.
I have a fiance now. I got engaged in
Fantastic.
February.
Fantastic.
And so we spend time together. I love spending time with family. I go bowling. I love to go to the beach to relax, and I love to travel just to get away.
Very nice.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm glad you said that because a lot of people are one-sided.
Yeah,
They're not a full person.
absolutely.
So if you push hard all the time, you will burn out. So you have to find that equal balance. You know?
Yeah.
In fact, I have to get on my case because I'm one of those.
Yeah.
And then I get tired and then I just get burned out.
Yeah.
That's not good, but it'd be better in moderation. Just get enough of enjoyment. Like I said, I'll take something like golf. To me, it's my recreation sport, but it's not hard.
Right.
I like talking smack with my buddies. You know what I mean? If I hit the ball, good, fine. If I don't, fine.
Right.
I'm not too concerned about how I look and what I think. You know what I mean? But I'm old.
Exactly.
But when I was young, all that stuff mattered.
Yeah. Competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, okay, let's go to your dreams, and I assume it's in politics. Is that what you want to pursue?
So honestly, I didn't know I was getting into politics. I didn't. It wasn't a dream of mine. My dream was to, be there for people.
Right.
Period. And I've done it. I've been an activist. I've been an advocate, and that's what I've done. And so, I consider myself living my dream. Of course, there's aspirations that I want to do, and business adventures that I want to take on. But I consider myself to live my dream. This is what I've dreamed about. This is what I've dreamed about doing. Not only my 9-to-5 job, I've dreamed about doing that. And then even the stuff I do in the community, I've dreamt of it. And so, I love everything that I'm doing. And so politics, it came because I saw a need. And I'm not a person to look at problems and say, hey, there's a problem. I'm the person that sees the problem and find the solutions to find it. So if there's a fire, I go get the water.
There you go.
And then put the fire out.
Well, I'm kind of like that too when you said you didn't really anticipate being at this platform.
Yeah.
And same as here, I didn't want to be in front of a camera. That's not who I am or what I am.
Right.
But I'm saying nobody's trying to pull us together. Somebody needs to talk about how can we come together as human beings. Just, and like I said, I was thinking about this racial thing. During my generation, we had a lot of fight for equality, fight for our rights, and all this stuff. And so we thought everything was going quite well until we had our last president.
Yeah.
And everything went backwards. So I'm not sure if we just misread and the United States was always like this, or we just let our guards down. In terms of the battle for race and equality, are you an advocate, a proponent of civil rights, the movement?
Absolutely. Definitely an advocate for it. Went to Senator John Lewis's funeral, and we marched out there, and so I'm definitely an advocate for civil rights. I'm definitely an advocate for community rights, but also I understand in solidarity, right? I understand that there's things that we cannot do alone, that we have to work together to work for equality for all. Not only just equality, but equity for our community as well, so that we can keep it going.
We were talking about something off camera just a minute ago that I found very curious about voting. And when I was at the candidates forum, I was very impressed with you had an answer to every question but people don't know politics. They are asked to vote for something. You really don't know what you're voting for. So how do people get educated as to knowing what they're voting for? And is this really for me, or is that people don't really know what they're voting for?
So number one, I consider when you're talking about measures, you have to understand what the measures are.
Who teaches that?
Right. And so you have to look at it, go online, and then you have some older generation who's not, tech savvy. And so there's some groups in Pasadena that actually, like Victory Bible Church did. They actually did a get to know your measures and get to know the props. And I actually was on the panel.
That's why my daughter goes to church.
So I was actually on that panel to actually go line by line on what every single measure was and every single proposition was to help that. But I think that's the most important part, is that we have to educate. The second thing is when we're electing officials, we have to know who our officials are. What have they done? Where have they come from? What are their achievements? And then not only that, what are their failures? But then also, what are they about? And I think the biggest thing when we talk about elections is that we have to understand that our local elections are very important, because that's what governs our daily lives when it comes to taxes and housing, and the list goes on and on and on. But those are so important for us, and we have to learn to educate ourselves. And if I can just say this real quickly, the system was never designed for us to educate ourselves. Because the people who we really want to put in office, they educate who they want to educate.
And they tell them what they want them to hear.
And they tell them what they want them to hear. And so that's why, I forgot who said it, but they said,
so true.
They said, if you don't want a slave to know anything, put it in the book.
And they'll never find it.
They'll never find it.
I understand that. You know, I was thinking back to the candidates forum. It seemed like the top thing on the agenda is affordable housing.
Yeah.
Now, I did real estate for about 20 plus years in Pasadena. And I think about the average price of homes. In fact, I don't know. Do you know what the average price of
In Pasadena, the medium house is $1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah.
In Pasadena?
2020,
Now,
it's $1
wait a
million.
minute. Now you want to make affordable houses. So how, and in fact, people of our race, how many people do you know that can afford $1 million house?
Right.
You
I
need-
mean, so the houses are medium, but our rent is actually in 2020 our rent medium price had went to $2,300 a month.
Okay, and
So
the
it's-
people on fixed income, how can you afford $2,300?
Exactly.
So when I hear all the politicians say, well, our main priority is like now affordable housing, but the numbers don't match in my head. You know what I mean?
It does it.
You know, so if you're saying I'm going to build all these new housing, you might be able to put them up for a month, and you might have a grant to pay their mortgage for a while. Is that what the whole nature behind the Section 8? When people come in, they only pay a portion of the rent,
They pay a portion of it.
and then the government
pays the
subsidizes
rest.
the other
Yeah.
part. Is that something that we're thinking about in terms of affordable housing?
So it's not to that extent. It's not actually like the government pays the extra part of it.
Right.
Affordable housing is that the housing can only go to a certain limit. The price can only go to a certain price point.
Right.
But the flip side of it, and what a lot of people are not talking about, is a lot of the affordable housing that are being built in Pasadena
Right.
are under 500 square feet. And so
Wow.
if you have a house, you have a wife, you have a husband, you have family, you have the kids, you guys are not going to be in there comfortable.
That's like a living room.
And most of them are only one bedrooms to a studio.
Wow.
And so it's not comfortable at all. And so what I think we have to do is we have to learn, or we have to work with the housing that we have. Yes, we need more affordable housing,
Right.
but we have to work with the housing that we already have to make sure that that stays affordable,
Right.
and make it affordable. But not only that, but we also have to but we have to work with our landlords as well.
Right.
Because our landlords live here too. They're our neighbors as well.
But aren't they? They're basically investors.
Yeah.
They're in it for the money, so they want to make a profit.
Exactly.
So is the government going to tell them to make less profit?
So what I'm
How's
saying
that
is
work?
that a lot of it, like a lot of the doors that we've been knocking on, they've been situations where holes in the wall,
Right.
roof leaks, and all
Right,
the other kind
right.
of stuff. And a lot of people are saying that we're scared to tell our landlords
Right.
because they might kick us
Kick
out
us
or
out.
raise the rent if they
Right.
have to fix it. And so one of the things that I want to do is actually create a program in the city of Pasadena for landlords that has maybe 15 units or less
Right.
to help them fix those situations, whether it's the roof, whether it's the
Right.
plumbing, or all these other issues, so that they can keep their rent at a stable pace instead
Right.
of actually having to fix it and then charge more rent to actually do that.
Right, and I like the thought, but then couldn't we subsidize things like that, which would say, now landlord, we're going to subsidize you or give you some kind of tax incentive.
Right.
You mean, so you're not losing.
Exactly.
We're asking you to help somebody, but we
Exactly.
don't want you to hurt yourself.
Exactly.
And one other thing that really, I think, is on everybody's concern, I passed by a bus stop. I walk the Rose Bowl 5 days a week. And I passed by this one bus stop. A lady sleeps there every night. Every night. And it's so shameful that the homeless are just out there. You know what I mean? And I heard on the candidates forum, they know the exact number of homeless areas in Pasadena. He said 500 something people are homeless. Who
Right.
goes out there and count that?
So I was actually a part of the team who counted the homeless count
Really?
for 2020. In February, and you don't see a lot of community leaders doing that, but
Right,
in February, I actually went out, me and another team,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually went and started to count our numbers and seeing what their needs were and why are they homeless? Like,
Mm-hmm. Right.
how can we help and what are
Right.
the needs that you have? And so, it's amazing that, we can say we want to house people, but we have to teach them how to keep housed. We have to stay
yeah,
housed. And I
exactly.
think that's the most important thing, right? I've worked in the homeless field and, working and walking them into housing.
Right.
And the next week they back on the street.
Oh, man.
And it's not because they really want to be on the street, but that's what they know.
Right.
And so we have to teach them how to pay your rent,
Right.
how to actually work and working skills, and how to get a job, but how to keep a job, how to sustain a job.
Right.
We have to teach them about mental health, and then also we have to help them with substance abuse issues because most of our people living on the street, to just equal it out, they own substance.
Right. And Brandon, like, I can look now. We only have about 2.5 minutes left, and time goes by. We have fun, and I can't believe it's almost 30 minutes. But there's so much to talk about, so much to broach. But like, it's people need to hear these kind of things from politicians. And like I said, you have a very good command of the issues. I'll tell you what, with the 2 minutes left, let me give you the last 2 minutes. What would you say to people as to why you're running and why they should vote for you?
Absolutely. Ultimately, to be honest with you, I'm running because I am ultimately tired of seeing recycled leadership in politics.
Okay.
We use the same leaders over and over for everything. Once you get a city council, you go to mayor. Once you go to mayor, you're done with mayor. You go to the left level, and you can go to the next level, and then sometimes you go back to a commission. And I think we have leaders in Pasadena who definitely would do a great job at it, but don't have the opportunity, don't have the time, don't have the funding, don't have the connections. And so I'm really running to let people know that there's solutions out there that the people really care about, and I'm all about the community first. And I've been right there in the middle of the community with every single problem, from the shooting to Anthony McLean, to other shootings at the police department, to our community shootings, to housing, to immigrant rights. And so I think we all have to come together and find the solutions that we all really want and back those solutions.
See, when you said that, that's the whole aim of this show, too. I want to get as many people on this show to talk about how we can build something, how we can grow together. And I don't see that spirit among most people around here. In fact, nationally. We're pathetic nationally. I mean, the wide right, the wide left, and there is no middle ground.
We only deal with what concerns us.
Right. You know, it's always us and them. And I just try to say, well, where is this United States of America? Well, first of all, it's never been a United States. It's always been us and them. You know what I mean? It's always been the high class and the low class. You know, but we lie and said there is freedom and justice for all. Never been freedom and justice for all. We know that. You know, and I have so much more to say. In fact, I wondered if I might can bother you to get you back on the show and let's just talk more about how we can serve this community, how we can grow this community.
Absolutely.
Okay?
You can get me back anytime.
I sure appreciate it. And we just have like 8 seconds, and it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. So glad for the opportunity.
Okay. We will do this again, okay?
Absolutely.
All right.